Hi, my name is John Hanna. I'm an attorney with Poles Attorneys in Panama City, Panama. Today I would like to talk to you about my firm. We're specialists in immigration, real estate, and corporate formation and management. A little bit about immigration, how to immigrate to Panama, how to get residency, and the steps on how to go forward with that. So there are several residency laws or visas that enable you to get residency in Panama. We're going to focus on the most popular ones today. So those would be the Friendly Nations visa, the Self-Economic Solvency visa, the Pension visa, and the Reforestation Investor visa. So let's start with the Friendly Nations visa. So the Friendly Nations visa is a visa that allows foreigners to obtain residency in Panama fairly quickly, and it also offers a work permit. So the Friendly Nations visa applies only to people of 52 countries that are listed in the Law 343, which is the Friendly Nations law. And those countries basically include all of North America, meaning Mexico, United States, Canada. It includes all of Western Europe, some countries in Eastern Europe, some countries in Asia like Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Taiwan, and then several countries in South America and some countries in Central America. So look at my website, poles.com.pa, and you can see the list of all the nations that are included in the law. So the requirement to get residency in Panama using the Friendly Nations law is essentially, the steps are as follows. So you need to, one, you need to be from one of the countries that are listed in the law. Number two, you need to provide a clean criminal history record. Number three, you need to have either a work contract with a Panamanian company, or you can set up your own company in Panama, your own corporation. Okay, so once you set up the corporation, if you decide that you're not going to use it at some point in the future, you can dissolve it, or otherwise you can use it to purchase your property or use it for business or whatever needs you may have. You may just want to use it for opening a bank account and having an asset protection through the corporation. The process to get the residency, once you've established, you've gotten all the documents together and you've established the corporation, you need to open a bank account in a Panamanian bank. You need to deposit $5,000 minimum in the account, and then for each dependent you need to add $2,000 to that. So say, for example, you open an account with $5,000 at a local Panamanian bank, you deposit an additional $2,000 for your wife, an additional $2,000 for your child, etc. So if you have two dependents, it'd be $4,000. If you have three, it'd be $6,000 additional. So essentially all you have to do is deposit that money in the bank, hold it. It just has to be in the bank for a couple months, and you can get a referral, a reference letter from the bank, and the reference letter needs to be addressed to the Panama Immigration Office. And aside from that, once we have all those documents put together, we take you to immigration. We register your passport, and we present the application. And at that point, you get a provisional one-year card. Okay, once you've got that one-year card, then you're in the country legally. We get you a what's called a multiple entry exit visa, and that allows you to enter and leave the country whenever you'd like while your visa's in process. And then once your permanent resident status resolution is issued by the immigration department, then we take you back to immigration and we get your permanent resident card. So that's basically the steps, and it takes, the whole entire process takes between 3 to say 6 months. Okay. Once you've got your permanent resident card, then we can process your work permit. And the work permit process takes around 3 months, and it's a fairly painless process. So that's the Friendly Nations visa. Now, the next visa that I'm going to talk about is the Self-Economic Solvency visa. So the Self-Economic Solvency visa generally is for those who do not qualify for the Friendly Nations visa. So there are certain countries, like, for example, that are not included in the Friendly Nations, like Venezuela, Colombia, some Eastern European countries, some countries, for example, in the Far East and Africa, for example. There's a few countries that are not included in the Friendly Nations visa. I forgot to mention that South Africa is one of the countries that's mentioned, that's in the Friendly Nations visa. South Africa and also Israel. But so any country that's not included, like China, for example, is not included. Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, I believe, is not included. Anyway, there's a number of countries that are not included. For those countries, we generally go with some of the other types of visas. So the Self-Economic Solvency visa would be one of those, and that would basically, the requirement for the Self-Economic Solvency visa is that you have to make an investment of $300,000 in Panama. Now, that investment can be either in a 3-year bank CD, or it could be in a titled property without a mortgage. So, or the third option would be partly in a bank CD, partly in a property. So you, let's say, for example, you put $100,000 into a bank CD for 3 years, and you put $200,000 into a property. That qualifies you for the Self-Economic Solvency visa. And the process basically is we get you a 2-year provisional visa, and then once you've completed the 2 years, then you get the permanent resident visa. Okay, so the process to get the permanent residency visa takes around 2.5 years total from start to finish to get your permanent residency visa. The only disadvantage of the permanent residency visa with the Self-Economic Solvency residency program is that it does not, you do not qualify for a work permit. So if you require a work permit, then you definitely want to go with the Friendly Nations or a different visa. We'd have to explore those options. So the third most popular resident visa is the Pensionado visa. So the Pensionado visa requires that you have a lifetime pension. That could be from, for example, from a private company or an insurance company, or a government pension, Social Security. You know, all those options are valid. And the pension needs to be a minimum of $1,000 a month. It doesn't matter what country you're from. The pension will still apply. And then for each dependent that you have, say, for example, a spouse or a child, you need to add $200 to that pension. So if it's just you and your wife, for example, or you and your husband, it'd be $1,200 minimum pension. If it's you and your husband or wife and a child, it'd be $1,400 minimum pension. And it has to be in US dollars. So what we do is if your pension is in a different currency, we get a certification of an exchange to prove that it equals, you know, $1,000 minimum in US dollars. You need to have a clean criminal history record as well. And basically the process is you come to Panama, you get your provisional resident card, and then within about 3 months we'll get your permanent card. So once you've got your permanent resident status, it's indefinite, and you get a cédula, which means you get a national ID card. And the advantage of the pension visa is that you get all sorts of discounts. The law grants a number of discounts. So, I mean, 25% off airfare, They're all on my website. You can see all the different discounts on there. You get discounts at restaurants, discounts at any entertainment venue, for example, concerts or any sort of entertainment like theaters or whatever. Discounts at restaurants, food, fast food restaurants as well. Discounts on medical services, discounts on home mortgages, discounts on your utilities. So you get a pretty hefty discount on your utility bills like power, water, cable, TV, all that kind of stuff. So there's a number of discounts that you get, as well as you get free, basically your importation of your household goods are duty-free. Importation of your cars are duty-free every 2 years. So a lot of people go for the pension visa because of all those discounts that they get. Discounts are significant, and it's definitely worth it as long as you're planning to come to Panama to just retire and not necessarily work, because the pension visa does not offer a work permit. Okay. The fourth option that I'd like to discuss is the reforestation investor visa. So the reforestation investor visa is generally for people who they do not qualify for the Friendly Nations visa. In other words, they're not from one of the 52 countries that are listed in the Friendly Nations law. And they don't have the $300,000 to do the self-economic solvency visa. So if you're in that scenario, if you don't have a pension and you don't have the $300,000 and you don't qualify for the Friendly Nations visa, then the reforestation visa would be for you. So the reforestation visa requires that you invest $80,000 in a qualified reforestation project in Panama. Most of the reforestation projects are teak plantations or other hardwood plantations. So, I mean, there's a lot of different options. There's teak, there's hardwoods, there's cocobolo, there's even plantations like mango plantations and coffee plantations and all sorts of other crops that are grown. So there's a variety of options. There's also pine that's very good. So basically it's an investment in land. Usually these projects offer you where you purchase land within their project and then they manage the crop. Okay, so you own the land, they manage the crop, and they produce profits for you over, that's usually over a long term, like anywhere from 5 to 20 years, depending on what type of plantation you're talking about. So with the reforestation visa, it's very similar to the self-economic solvency visa. You would be processing your visa. It's the same thing. You need to bring a clean criminal history record, and we would process your residency once you've made that $80,000 investment. And we take you to immigration, we register your passport, you get a 2-year provisional visa, and then after the 2 years, you get a permanent resident visa. So it takes about 2.5 years from start to finish to complete your permanent residency status. And with all of these visas, once you've been a resident for 5 years consecutively, you can qualify for becoming a citizen. So you can become naturalized. And as a naturalized citizen, you have a right to a passport, a Panamanian passport. And the Panamanian passport is actually one of the better passports of all the countries in Central and South America. It offers visa-free travel to many different countries in Europe and throughout Central and South America and Asia. So it's actually a pretty good passport to have. And also, Panama has a territorial tax system, so residents of Panama and citizens of Panama pay tax only on income generated from within the country. So if your income is generated from outside of the country, then as a Panamanian resident or citizen, it would not be taxed by Panama. So there are some serious advantages to becoming a resident or a citizen of Panama. That's all for now. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you watching, and feel free to come back and watch us on the next program. Thank you.